Imagine waking up every morning with a list of tasks in your mind, yet instead of taking action, you keep postponing everything. Familiar? If yes, then this story is for you. A fox named Emily also faced this problem, but one day, everything changed. How exactly? Today, we'll tell you about Emily's incredible journey from procrastination to self-confidence and empowerment. Stay tuned, as this story might change your life. In a faraway and picturesque forest, there lived a fox named Emily. This forest was full of life. Tall trees, lush bushes, and streams flowing between rocks, creating a sense of coziness and tranquility. Everyone knew each other here, and everyone was busy with their own tasks. But despite all this idyll, Emily often felt overwhelmed. She knew she had accumulated many tasks, but each time she found an excuse to postpone them. Emily was smart and cunning, as a fox should be. Her red fur always shone in the sun, and her large, expressive eyes often gazed into the distance as if searching for answers to unknown questions. Her home was on the edge of the forest, with a beautiful view of the sunsets. Inside, the house was cozy but slightly neglected. Old books, unfinished fabrics, and tools that needed fixing were scattered here and there. Every corner reminded her of unfinished tasks. Every morning, Emily would wake up thinking that today she would finally start getting things in order. Today, I'll finally gather food for the winter, she thought, lying in her soft bed. But as soon as she stepped out onto the porch, the sun and warm breeze would disrupt her motivation. Emily would sit on the grass and drift into daydreams, forgetting her plans. She comforted herself by thinking there was still plenty of time to get everything done. There's still time. I'll do it tomorrow, she convinced herself. Days passed, and then weeks. Emily watched as the leaves on the trees began to turn yellow, signaling the approach of autumn. But instead of taking care of important tasks, she got caught up in small distractions. Watching rabbits play in the field, listening to the birds sing, and collecting pretty stones by the stream. Everything around her seemed so interesting and important that Emily had neither the energy nor the desire to attend to her real tasks. On one of these days, when Emily once again put off all her tasks and decided to rest, she sat on soft moss by her cottage and dozed off. She had a dream where she was running through the forest, searching for food. But every time she found something edible, it disappeared immediately. Emily woke up in a cold sweat, realizing that her dream could become a reality if she continued to procrastinate. The next day, Emily decided to start small. At least I can gather some food, she thought. She went to the forest and started collecting berries, mushrooms, and nuts. But as soon as her basket was half full, Emily decided it was enough for today. Tomorrow I'll gather even more, she told herself and headed home. However, the next day the same thing happened. Emily found a reason to postpone the gathering until the next day. In the evening, as Emily was sitting by the campfire again, she was visited by a bear named Max. Max was known in the forest for his wisdom and experience. He often helped other animals by giving advice and sharing his knowledge. "You have been procrastinating for too long, Emily," he said, sitting down next to her. The fox looked up at the bear. "I know," she whispered, "but I don't know how to deal with it. I always feel like I have a little more time." Max looked at her with understanding. "I was just like you," he began. "When I was young, I always thought I could do everything tomorrow. But one day I realized that tomorrow might not come. Time is a trap, and if we don't start acting now, we may find ourselves in a situation that's hard to escape." Emily listened carefully, realizing that the bear was speaking the truth. Max offered Emily a simple yet effective way to deal with procrastination. "Start with small steps," he said. "Don't try to do everything at once. Choose one task and start with it. Even if it's something insignificant, it will be your first step towards bigger changes." Emily thought about it. "Maybe you're right," she said, staring at the fire. The next day, Emily decided to start by fixing the door of her cabin. This task had been postponed for several months, and every time the door creaked, it reminded Emily of her indecision. The fox took her tools and, despite her uncertainty, began the work. After a couple of hours, the door was as good as new. Emily felt an incredible sense of relief and joy. "This really works," she thought. Inspired by her success, Emily decided to continue in the same spirit. The next day, she gathered even more berries and nuts. On the third day, she repaired the roof, and on the fourth day, she cleaned the entire house. Each day she did something small, but it brought huge results. After a week, her cabin was in perfect order, and her food supplies for the winter were gathered. Emily felt confident and proud of her achievements. When Max visited again, he was pleasantly surprised. "Emily, you have changed," he said. "Your home looks like new now, and you yourself seem different." The fox smiled and thanked the bear for his advice. "You were right, Max. Small steps really did lead to big changes. Now I know that the main thing is not to be afraid to start and not to postpone tasks for later." Emily continued sharing her experience with other animals in the forest. Her new approach to life became a true example for everyone. A wolf named Rex, who used to always rush and could never focus on one thing, saw in Emily an example of patience and consistency. He came to her for advice. "Emily, how did you manage to change your life so drastically?" he asked. "I always believed I had to do everything at once, but now I see you found a different way." The fox smiled and replied, "Rex, the secret is to take small steps. You don't need to try to tackle everything at once. Start with one task, focus on it, and only then move on to the next. When you see the first results, it will inspire you to continue." The wolf thought about her words and decided to try this approach in his life. In the following weeks, the forest became lively. Every resident tried to follow Emily's advice. A squirrel named Sophie, who was always busy collecting nuts but never finished her tasks, now planned her day wisely. She set small tasks for herself and completed them one by one. "I never thought it could be so simple to get everything done," she said, admiring her results. Even the old wise owl named Theodore, who always advised other animals not to rush, began to rethink his habits. He realized that sometimes slowness can also be a trap if it leads to procrastination. Theodore started every morning by writing down all his tasks and focusing on each one, completing one per day. Soon, he felt his life become more organized and peaceful. Emily felt proud of her friends. Seeing how her approach to life was helping others gave her strength. But most importantly, she realized she no longer feared new tasks. Now, every day was an opportunity to do something useful and important. And although she sometimes still felt like procrastinating, Emily quickly overcame these thoughts by remembering how easy and pleasant it was to move forward, step by step. One day, Emily received an invitation from the king of the forest, Leo the lion. He heard about her success and decided to invite her for a meeting. "Emily, your story has inspired many in our forest," Leo said, meeting her in his magnificent palace located on a hill with a view of the entire forest. "I want you to share your experience with the other animals. We all need to learn from you how not to fall into the trap of time." Emily agreed with joy. She never thought that her simple steps could have such a big impact on others. On the day of the meeting, all the forest animals gathered, from the smallest mice to the majestic moose. Emily stood before them, feeling a little shy but determined. "I'm not a great speaker," she began, "but I know that each of us can change our lives. The main thing is not to be afraid to start small and not to put off until tomorrow what can be done today. Time is our most valuable resource," Emily continued. "We often don't notice how it slips away when we postpone things. But if we start acting right now, we'll see how much we can accomplish." The animals listened to her intently. Emily shared specific examples of how she overcame procrastination and achieved significant results. She explained that small steps really work, and it's important not to lose motivation. Inspired by Emily's speech, the animals began actively discussing how they could apply her advice to their lives. Each found something relatable and useful in her words. A hedgehog named Pin, who had always feared starting new things because of the fear of failure, decided to try. If Emily could do it, so can I, he thought, planning his first small step. After the meeting, Emily received many thank you letters from animals all over the forest. Her story became a legend, and her name a symbol of determination and persistence. But Emily didn't stop there. She continued to grow and help others. Every time she felt like procrastinating, she remembered how rewarding it was to see the results of her work and how important it was to share this experience with others. One day, Emily decided it was time to write a book about her journey. She realized that her story could help even more animals, not just in her forest, but beyond. The book was written with heart and sincerity, detailing every step of her fight against procrastination, offering advice and inspiring action. This book became a bestseller among animals, and many said it changed their lives. Emily became not just a hero of her forest, but an inspiration for everyone who read her story. Her journey showed that any obstacle can be overcome by acting consistently and not being afraid to take the first step. The fox understood that the key is to believe in oneself and one's abilities. She learned to live in harmony with herself and her time, and now her days were filled with purpose and joy. Time went by, and Emily continued to enjoy every new day. She no longer postponed tasks, but instead enthusiastically tackled every new project. Her cottage on the edge of the forest became a meeting place for many animals who came for advice and support. Emily shared her experience, listened to others' stories, and helped each find their path. And so, one day, sitting on the porch of her cottage and watching the sunset, Emily reflected on how far she had come. From a fox who constantly postponed tasks to a confident and successful individual capable of inspiring others. She realized her journey was just beginning, with much more ahead. But most importantly, she knew that time was in her hands, and each day was a new opportunity for growth and development. I am proud that I was able to change my life, Emily thought as she enjoyed the forest's silence. She knew that anyone could do the same if they just took the first step. The fox smiled, looking at the horizon, and confidently said, "Time is not our enemy, but our ally if we know how to use it. Never be afraid to start something new. Small steps will lead you to great results." So friends, if Emily the Fox's story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to catch more inspiring videos. Give a thumbs up if you liked this episode, and write in the comments what steps you will take today to overcome procrastination. Each like and comment helps us get better and bring you even more useful and interesting stories. See you in the next videos.